Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Shri Shri Radha Kalashandi Dham morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. We'll be reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 2, text 22 through 32, and we'll focus on text 22. 2 through 32. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Shri Hare Jaya Radha Kalashanji Shri Hare Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri Radha Kalashanda ji ki jai, Shri the Prabhupada ki jai. Go to Permanente. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vivasyam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Nasta Prayasha Abreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki Om Vigantimarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranvalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hare Krishna. Okay, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 22. Could we read the translations, please? Trista, if you'd start.
However, O king, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyments, like transference to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, or achievement of the eightfold perfections, travel in outer space with the Vihayasas, or a situation in one of the millions of planets, then he has to take away with him the materially molded mind and senses.
We're really in an interesting spot in Srimad Bhagavatam. First, we are understanding the lotus feet of the Lord, and to become submissive to the feet of the lotus feet of the Lord, then it's really helpful to understand how big God is. God is big, but how big is God? And so when we start to read some of this, we start to understand, oh my gosh, Krishna is really amazing. We're just talking about some of the spiritual world, the spiritual plane, and we're seeing that people are living trillions of years. We're seeing so many different planetary systems. So we're getting this appreciation for how big Krishna is. Yeah. Here, okay, we'll come back to verse 22. So let's go to 23, please.
The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted, within and beyond the material worlds. The fruitive workers, or the gross materialists, can never move in such an unrestricted manner.
24.
O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Sushumna to reach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, he goes first to Vaishvanara, the planet of the deity of fire, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contaminations. And thereafter he still goes higher to the circle of Sishumara to relate with Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead.
In the morning, we read the 10 offenses to the holy name. And in our morning program at Krishna House, we have what's called the 10 defenses. And we read them this morning. And one that particularly struck out to me was that we don't see the teachings of the Charyas and of the Vedas as even slightly exaggerated. So when we read some of this, it's like, wow, what's going on here? But we should take it as devotees as not even slightly exaggerated. Now, there might be at first, of course, some questioning, some, the faith hasn't been developed yet. And that's okay, because the more and more we learn about Krishna consciousness, more and more we can start to understand some of these things and start to accept them as, okay, I can see that this isn't what I learned as a kid for most of us, that, by the scientific process of the sciences, the scientists, but this is the scientific process of Krishna consciousness. Jahari, go ahead, please.
24?
Yes, please.
O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way...
Do we go? Yeah, I think we just read this.
Yeah, 25?
Thank you.
This Shushumara is the pivot for the turning of the complete universe, and it is called the navel of Vishnu, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. The yogi alone goes beyond the circle of Shushumara and attains the planet Maharloka, where purified saints like Bhrigu enjoy a duration of life of 4,300,000,000 solar years. This planet is worshipable even for saints who are transcendentally situated.
At the time of the final devastation of the complete universe, the end of the duration of Brahma's life, a flame of fire emanates from the mouth of Ananta, from the bottom of the universe. The yogi sees all the planets of the universe burning to ashes, and thus he leaves for Satyaloka by airplanes used by the great purified souls. The duration of life in Satyaloka is calculated to be
15 trillion? 480 billion?
480 million years.
27, please.
In that planet of Satyaloka, there is neither bereavement, nor old age, nor death. There is no pain of any kind, and therefore there are no anxieties, save that sometimes, due to consciousness, there is a feeling of compassion for those unaware of the process of devotional service, who are subjected to unsurpassable miseries in the material world.
You can imagine that the demigods are enjoying in such a way that our lives here on this planet Earth, we must look like roaches. We look at a roach and an ant or something, and we think, oh, what an insignificant, little creature, But when we start to hear about the demigods and how wonderful that they're enjoying, it's like, gosh, man, we're simply just insects. The mention here of the anxiety due to the feeling of compassion for the unaware in the process of a devotional service. Sri Prabhupada in the purport speaks about the importance of taking up the spiritual master, or being given the association with the saintly person. And so even the people who are in the highest planetary planets are praying or hoping or feeling that compassion that people take up the spiritual master. Pretty amazing. 28, please.
After reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body. And one after another, he gradually attains stages of existence, from earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, and airy, until he reaches the ethereal stage.
The devotee thus surpasses the subtle objects of different senses, like aroma by smelling, the palate by tasting, vision by seeing forms, touch by contacting, the vibrations of the ear by ethereal identification, and the sense organs by material activities.
The devotee, thus surpassing the gross and subtle forms of coverings, enters the plane of egoism, and in that status he merges the material modes of nature, ignorance and passion, in this point of neutralization, and thus reaches egoism in goodness. After this, all egoism is merged in the Mahat Tattva, and he comes to the point of pure self-realization.
Only the purified soul can attain the perfection of associating with the personality of Godhead in complete bliss and satisfaction in his constitutional state. Whoever is able to renovate such devotional perfection is never again attracted by this material world, and he never returns.
Your Majesty, Maharaj Parikshit, know that all that I have described in reply to your proper inquiry is just according to the version of the Vedas, and it is eternal truth. This was described personally by Lord Krishna to Brahma, with whom the Lord was satisfied upon being properly worshipped.
So, when we leave this body, the body, what happens to it? Dies, and then eventually, what do they say? We're like all dust in the wind, right? Well, we're not all dust in the wind. The body is like dust in the wind, right? It will become part of the earth, and eventually it will be recycled, and then, it could take up another body. So as we go through the yoga process, we have to give up this gross body, and so this gross body is going to emerge with the mode of ignorance. The subtle body, we're going to have to give it up also, right? So it's going to go and emerge into the mode of passion. And then eventually we have to give up the mind and the mode of goodness. And then therefore we can go to the spiritual planet, spiritual world, because we can't take these with us. Is explaining that there's two ways to get to the spiritual world. One is through the yoga process of the higher planets, going up, 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 up. And then the second one is a bhakti yoga, right? And so bhakti yoga, we can see the power of bhakti yoga. It's just like, whoop, skipping over these, However, from what I understand in the bhakti yoga, is also when we leave the body, we're going to have to go through all of these layers of material existence. And so when we're rising up, and we see, here's this attractive piece of cheesecake in the spiritual world, then we might have to stop and have some, cheesecake. The point, right? What is it that might distract you from the spiritual world? Well, cheesecake, right? So when we're going up, you're gonna be enticed of whatever your material desire is. Oh, you know, you can imagine the people that like cars, right? You got such nice cars. I got this, you know. Well, you go to the spiritual world, you're going to be, oh, look at this nice airplane that I have. You know, I could drive that. It could go really fast. I could take tight corners. Oh my gosh, what a wonder. So what is it that you are going to be attracted to possibly when you're going up? The hope is that we're just attracted to the holy name even more than that, and it'll just keep us going. Okay, 22. Let's go 22, please. Hare Krishna. Okay. I forgot my glasses. Okay. Yadi prayashan yadi prayashan nirpapar. I had it. Yadi prayashan nirpaparma maistayam. Yadi prayashan nripaparmamastyam. Vaihanyashanam utayad viharam. Vaihayashananam utayad viharam. Astadi patyam gunasuna vayahi. Vane astadi patyam gunasana vayaye. Sayav gachani manasandriyascha. Sayaiva Gachayan manasandriyaya sacha. Yadi prayashan nripaparmasayayam. Vaihiha yashanam utavad viharam. Utayad viharam. Astadi patam gunasana vaye. Sayaiva gachena manasandriyascha. Please chant. Yati prayasan nripaparamastedyam. Vayayasanam utayad viharam. Patam gunasunay vayaye. Sahai vagachen manadandriyascha. Yad viprayana shanilipa paramastayam. Vayayasanam utayad viharam. Astadi patam gunasana vaye. Sareva gachina mansandriyasacha. Yadi prayashan ripaparamastyam. Varidyasanam utayad viharam. Astadi patam gunasani avave. Sache gachanan manasendriyasascha. Word for word. Yadi. However. Prayashan. Maintaining a desire. Nripa. O king. Paramastyam. The governing planet of the material world. Vaiha Yashanam. of the beings known as the Vayashas. Uta, it is said, Yat, what is? Viaram, place of enjoyment. Asta Adipatam, lording it over with eightfold achievements. Gunasanave, in the world of the three modes of nature. Saha, along with. Eva, certainly. Gashet, should go. Manasa, accompanied by the mind. Indriyathi, yes, and the senses. Cha, also. Please, somebody read the translation one more time. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
However, O king, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyments, like transference to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, or achievement of the eightfold perfections, travel in outer space with the Vaihayasyas, or a situation in one of the millions of planets, then he has to take away with him the materially molded mind and senses.
Purport. In the upper status of the planetary systems, there are facilities thousands and thousands of times greater for material enjoyments than in the lower planetary systems. The topmost planetary systems consist of planets like Brahmaloka and Dhruvaloka, the pole star, and all of them are situated beyond Maharloka. The inhabitants of those planets are empowered with eightfold achievements of mystic perfection. They do not have to learn and practice the mystic process of yoga perfection and achieve the power of becoming small like a particle, anima siddhi, or lighter than a soft feather, laghima siddhi. They do not have to get anything and everything from anywhere and everywhere, prapti siddhi. To become heavier than the heaviest, mahima siddhi. To act freely and create anything wonderful or annihilate anything at will, ishitva siddhi. To control all material elements, Vishitva Siddhi. To possess such power as will never be frustrated in any desire, Prakamya Siddhi. Or to assume any shape or form one may even whimsically desire, Kama Vasaya Yita Siddhi. All these expendencies are as common as natural gifts for the inhabitants of those higher planets. They do not require any mechanical help to travel in outer space, and they can move and travel at will from one planet to any other planet within no time. The inhabitants of the earth cannot even move to the nearest planet except by mechanical vehicles, like spacecraft. But the highly talented inhabitants of such higher planets can do everything very easily.
So this is Srila Prabhupada's touching on what we were talking about earlier, is that this glamour of the heavenly planets. So what is it for you of these eightfold mystic powers that's attractive? What could you imagine? Like, whoa, that might be a little fun. Anybody willing to be like, hey, that might be cool?
All of them.
All of it? Yeah? Is there anything in particular that kind of attracts you?
I think, well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
I think it'd be pretty cool to
shape shifting.
I was thinking shape shifting too. That'd be kind of cool, you know. And here in this material world, there's stories about shapeshifters, right? And it's scary, right? And heavy planets, they're shape shifting for the fun of it, I guess, to increase their maximum enjoyment.
Or like the getting anything from anywhere, right? I heard that you can, reach your hand across the Atlantic Ocean and grab a mango from a tree, and it's like here.
Yeah.
If you wanted it. Yeah.
Right? Can you imagine in the heavenly planets? Then you can get anything you want, right? You just grab it, and it's right there. It's kind of interesting because we start talking about, usually we start talking about the spiritual world, and we talk about some of these things. Like if you think of a mango, boom, there's a mango and stuff like that. But even is explaining that even in the heavenly planets, some of these are this is available also. However, it's not. Doesn't get the supreme enjoyment or the supreme happiness because it's not connected with Krishna completely. Okay, let's go ahead with the next paragraph, please.
Since a materialist is generally inquisitive to experience what is actually in such planetary systems, he wants to see everything personally. As inquisitive persons tour all over the world to gain direct local experience, the less intelligent transcendentalist similarly desires to have some experience of those planets about which he has heard so many wonderful things. The yogi can, however, easily fulfill his desire by going there with the present materialistic mind and senses. The prime inclination of the materialistic mind is to lord it over the material world, and all the siddhis mentioned above are features of domination over the world. The devotees of the Lord are not ambitious to dominate a false and temporary phenomenon. On the contrary, a devotee wants to be dominated by the supreme predominator, the Lord. A desire to serve the Lord, the supreme predominator, is spiritual or transcendental. And one has to attain this purification of the mind and the senses to get admission into the spiritual kingdom. With the materialistic mind, one can reach the best planet in the universe, but no one can enter into the kingdom of God. Senses are called spiritually purified when they are not involved in sense gratification. Senses require engagements, and when the senses are engaged totally in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they have no chance to become contaminated by material infections.
That's it. That's the rest of the purport. So Srila Prabhupada mentions here that the living entity has this desire to dominate over material nature. And often we can see that desire to dominate over trying to control that situation. Through the control of the situation, we start to attachment, and then we can't see things clearly. And when can't see things clearly because of the illusion, we start to become mad, and so on. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, right? And the thing is that we need to be careful about, because of this attachment or the desire to dominate, is we become offensive. I mentioned earlier that there are 10 offenses and the 10 defenses. Well, this is a way that we can easily start to be offensive towards other people and to the Lord by this desire to dominate. I am the controller. I am the center. I know what's right. Everybody else, doesn't exactly know right. Maybe they see things kind of right sometimes and stuff like that. But I see things right all the time. And so, Srila Prabhupada mentions that, or actually, before we go there, what if this desire to dominate and control is a big impediment in our spiritual life and our going back home? What is it that can be the cure for this? What's your guys' suggestions for a cure of the desire to dominate and control?
I would say getting a higher taste.
Getting a higher taste. Higher taste for what? How is a higher taste going to cure us from domination? Wanting to control.
So the desire for domination is like us thinking that we're in the material world and controlling everything in the material world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that gives us like a certain kind of satisfaction. And then if by the mercy of the devotees, we can get a higher taste for Krishna consciousness, then when we become aligned with our original constitutional position as servitors, then we can experience the bliss of servitude, and so when I'm in service, then I realize that I am serving, right? And if I'm serving, then I'm not dominating. Dominating is kind of control, right? So that's what anyway, it's just...
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
So the higher taste is that there's actually a higher taste in being servant.
The higher taste coming from serving Krishna as devotees, yeah.
Yes. This is what my conclusion was also, is that the cure for dominating is actually to become the attitude of service. And when we come into this attitude of service, then automatically things start to that fever of dominance or control goes down. And so when we can look ourselves as the servitor, how can I help? What can I do best? How can I serve Krishna in the best way? Then automatically that temperature lowers. I have 2 hands up. Drista, your mom is raising your hand. I'm going to ask you to give it to your mom before you speak. I shouldn't have said that even. My bad.
I was just going to say, is this on? Sometimes Krishna helps you if you have that feeling of dominance by smashing you and having all your plans not work out, and then you're forced to be humble.
Yes, that's such a wonderful point. Once we start to accept that we're servitors and that Krishna is so great that he's doing all of these wonderful things, he's manifesting this this material world that's so amazingly, that has heavens, what to speak of the spiritual world, and if everything's coming from him, then if I'm a devotee and I show some surrender to Krishna, then he must be doing this for my benefit. So when he smashes us, when we have this attitude of dominance and control, and then we get frustrated because of it, and then we say, wait a minute, this must be from my Krishna. He must be giving me this opportunity to improve, because you know what? I'm going to go up when I go up to the spiritual world, there's going to be so many things that are going to be attracting me. I might as well get it smashed now and understand that this material world is not for me. So sometimes we need those hard lessons. Drista, please.
I was kind of thinking, like, some people, they have a nature
Mm.
of like a manager.
Mm.
They have a managerial nature, and they like to like control situations and stuff like that.
Yes.
I was kind of thinking, like, is that in the same category as the controlling propensity? And also, is that something that has to be destroyed, or like, can we even dovetail our desire to be the supreme controller?
Mm. This is a really good point. We all have our natures, right? And we have to use those for Krishna's service. The thing of a manager or quote unquote leadership is the attitude of management leaderships in these kings. That we see so many great kings like Maharaj Yudhisthira and Maharaj Parikshit, who only saw themselves as servants of the Lord. Yudhisthira was asked, and Duryodhana was asked, you go find somebody who's more qualified, or less qualified, who is more qualified than you to become king. And Duryodhana comes out and says, I couldn't find anybody. There's not one person here that's more qualified than me to be king. And Yudhisthira said, you know what? Everybody I found was more qualified to me. So if the managers, leaders, kings of today, presidents, are so minute to the greatness of Yudhisthira, and yet he had that attitude that everybody's better than me. The amazing thing, as I have a little bit of experience, I'm going, anyways, a little bit of experience this, is the amazing thing about humbling yourself and understanding that you do have some kind of influence as a leader, but that influence is to wholeheartedly to see the people that you influence for their best interest, then you do have some influence and some control. But your attitude the whole time is, this is just my service. So you never really go into the attitude of dominance and control. You go more of your attitude, the actions that you're following might be of influencing and quote unquote managing. But the whole time your attitude is, hey, what can I do best for the people that I'm serving? Okay, sometimes that might be like, say, hey, we need to do this. What do you guys think about this? Right? What do you guys think about doing this? Or what do you guys think about this? Or we can speak our mind. I really think it would be a great benefit to us all as a team, or a benefit to you if you did this. What do you think? And we give them the freedom of choice, right? As a leader, you don't make anybody do anything. If you make somebody do something, as a leader, you've actually diminished your sense of influence that you have. And over time, you'll see it diminish more and more and more until basically you have none. This is actually what happens quite often in this material world as parents, or our parents, is that they use so often the sense of telling you what to do. I need to be careful here. There are times in a life when a child needs to be just told what they're doing and stuff, to give that straight direction. But at a certain point in time, you have to realize that your child is no longer the child of that they were, and you have to go more into the mood of friendships and encouraging and guiding. But my point in that saying is, even when we're as parents, when we're telling our children what to do, it's more of what undermines that relationship for the long term is the attitude that I know what's best, I'm telling you what to do, instead of the attitude of, hey, this would be best for you if you were doing this. This is what's best for you. This is what's best for you. I kind of went off the parent thing kind of got a little iffy. But the point is the attitude of when you're leading. Jahari.
Oh, I just saw, I was thinking about, Mother Lakshmi Priya was talking about humility, and we were talking about things that, not that we need to get rid of, but things that we need to not focus on. And then I thought about this quote that I saw on Facebook I thought it was really kind of okay. It says, humility means that you are convinced beyond any doubt that there is nothing in this world, absolutely nothing in this world. Not your money, not your family, not your fame, not your gun, not your education. Nothing that will save you except the mercy of Krishna. And when you are convinced of this, then you are humble.
I was actually just thinking about this yesterday, humility. And Srila Prabhupada so often speaks about how humility is knowing that Krishna is the supreme controller. That's humility. I've also heard it put in another way that kind of has to do with Drista, what Drista is explaining too, is that humility is actually understanding your service too. If you understand, not trying to do more than your service, or not trying to being lazy and not doing your service. Know your capabilities, know your natures, and then engage them in Krishna's service. If you're not engaging them in Krishna's service, then you're just a miser, right? Did you have something to say? Oh, you grabbed the name. Any other questions or comments? This class quickly turned into humility and dominance and control.
In text 28, it says, after reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated furiously by the subtle body, an identity similar to that of the gross body. So I was thinking, it's like talking about how you have different stages of bodies, and that the highest form is the ethereal stage. So would that mean like you have a body made up of ether versus like a body made up of air? It's like kind of giving like a hierarchy of bodies. I've never seen that before. So I was kind of curious about it. I don't know how much information there is on it, but like in places like Satyaloka, do people not have, like, are their bodies made up of ether? Is that like the kind of...
That's what I understand. I'm not too learned in this situation, but from what I understand is yes, they have a, and this is why Srila Prabhupada often said, okay, you can go to, you can try by your spaceships to go to these other planets, but you will not see them because you don't have the eyes to see them. We don't have the material senses to perceive what's going on with these other bodies. And so yes, on the top, was that your question or that your thought?
Yeah, I was thinking about that like when we were reading it. Also, I was thinking like our bodies are made up, I think, are like mostly water on this planet. And so would that mean that in lower planetary systems they would be made up of mostly earth, or does it not work the same way?
Yeah, like, as a matter of fact, the higher the planetary we go, the more the subtle elements come out. So if we went down farther, then we would see more of the gross elements. And so it's explained through the yoga process that eventually gross body has to be given up. It merges into the mode of ignorance. And so then you have the subtle body, which is the mode of passion. And then you have the mind, which is the mode of goodness. So even in these planetary systems, people are less and less, their body is less and less of the modes of passion and ignorance, and they become the mode of more of the mode of goodness. But even then, Srila Prabhupada explains in one of the purport is that the mind can be in the mode of goodness, and we can become very comfortable with the mode of goodness, right? It's even a trap, but it's because it's still material. And we have such, the people in the heavenly planets have such a situation to enjoy, in that mode of goodness. Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting.
Just Janaki.
Hi, Krishna. I also had a question on text 30. Later on, it's talking about how you're passing the gross and subtle forms. And what I thought was interesting is that it says, in that status, after he crosses the gross and subtle forms of coverings, he merges into the material modes of nature, ignorance and passion, and in this point of neutralization. And I was just wondering how that neutralizes each other. Ignorance, is it saying that ignorance and passion merge and thus neutralizes each other so that you can go into goodness? What is the logic behind that?
What I understand is that they're giving up those lower modes, and those modes are merging back into their existence. For instance, this ground right here being the mode of ignorance, right? Our body, when we die, it will eventually become this earth, right? So the yogi, by his will, is giving up those modes and letting them merge into the modes. So they're giving up their material body, the modes of ignorance, and those are merging. So it's not necessarily and in this state he merges the material modes. He merges them. He gives up the material body and lets it merge into the mode of ignorance, or the modes of material nature, lower modes.
Is merging synonymous with giving up? Is that what you're kind of saying?
That's what I'm equating it to. You know what I mean? The yogi isn't pushing, right? They aren't pushing stuff off, but they're letting it go. They're letting go of the lower modes, letting go. So sometimes we'll see this in our own self, right? We'll have some kind of situation where we can see the lower modes starting to hit us, but if we start fighting it, what happens? We actually get caught up more into it, right? Because we're focusing on it. But when we see the modes of material nature coming, the lower, and we see it, okay, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay, in the mode of transcendence. I'm going to stay with my Krishna consciousness. And so these might be working and stuff, but our focus and our consciousness doesn't become wrapped up in them. So similarly, the yogi, he's merging, he's letting go of those lower natures and letting them go with where let them do their thing, let them go in there, and then he continues to go up to egoism. Very subtle, so say. That's my understanding when I read it.
Thank you.
I'll put a little asterisk. I'm not 100% sure on that. Definitely, it's a good question to ask, because I was reading this too, going, okay, let me try to understand this, and this is what I was understanding.
When I was reading it, I don't know, this is just like my interpretation of it, but I thought that maybe the mode of goodness was the neutral point, because I was thinking like the same thing, sort of like they gave up the modes of passion and ignorance, and the neutral point became the mode of goodness because those ones are no longer present. So because there was only one mode present, that's the neutral point. That's what I thought, at least when I was reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I was taking it neutral as he's no longer attached to it or detached. It's just neutral to it. He's no longer. It's like, hey, there it goes. Give it up. I'm going over here. So he's no longer like more lamenting it or tempted by it. That's was my thought. But it's a good point also. Oh, I was mentioning earlier, this is a very interesting part of Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's like talking about some stuff that's just like, wow. It's like very, very deep, very, I don't know, for me it's tough. Some of this stuff is tough, like going through the planetary systems and stuff like that. But I really appreciate diving deeper into Srimad Bhagavatam, because then you could start to digest it, start to ask these questions, right? What does this mean? And then it can, it influences our consciousness also. So at least for me, reading this, when I start to see the modes of material nature, coming and trying to, push me one way or another, I'm going to work on at least myself being neutral to it and being like, okay, it's, no problem, it's working. Let me remain with my Krishna consciousness. Is that okay? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Pramande, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.